Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right, good evening, and welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore, and welcome to a special edition of tonight's show. With us, we have Joseph McLemore Sr., owner and operator of Joe's Barbershop. 52 years of traveling behind the chair. Joseph McLemore Sr. was born in Rock Island, Illinois, and is one of 20 children. Growing up poor made him crave for a better life for himself and his family. He started working at the age of 14 as a dishwasher at the Blackhawk Hotel and Bishops before going to Barber College. In 1966, he decided to attend the Davenport Barber College, and in 1968, he opened his first barbershop. 52 years later, he is still there, thanks to the almighty, a loving family, and caring wife. It would not have been possible. Joe prides himself on being the first full-time African American barber in the Quad Cities. On January 2018 was his 50th year anniversary, and Joe believes the key to a successful business is offering great customer service, which includes dependability, social skills, and understanding, but most important is providing a quality product, the best haircut in the Quad Cities. So, without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, my daddy, Mr. Joseph McLemore Sr. Hey, Daddy.
Well, good evening, Kimberly.
All right, good evening. I'm so excited, so excited. Everybody, if you hadn't already figured out by now, this is my dad, and I'm just excited that my listeners have an opportunity to hear some amazing information, stories about who this man is, Joseph McLemore Sr., who has proudly ran an amazing business for 52 years in the Quad City area. And so for those who don't understand what the Quad City is, we're originally from Davenport, Iowa. It's where I'm from and raised there. And that's where my father's business has been. So what I'm going to do is we're going to let Mr. Joe here. I'm trying to figure out whether I'm going to call you Daddy or Joe the whole time I'm talking to you, Dad. So I'm super
okay. Which sounds the best?
I think I'll call you Daddy. It just works better for me, right?
All right.
All right, well, Daddy, what I would love for you to do is just tell the listeners a little bit more about who Joe McLemore is beyond what I've already read this evening.
Well, let's see. Most of what you said earlier was possibly right and correct and so forth, but there was a few things we kind of skipped out of. The large family, we came from here in the Quad Cities. My mother, she was from a large family herself, which she was from Rockingham, North Carolina. My dad was from Paducah, Kentucky. Well, we as children, we were brought up to, basically work a lot. We didn't have any, what we call the family structure, where you sat around and hugging and kissing. We were brought into a situation the minute we were put on this earth here. That situation means something that I didn't pick. I don't think she did it purposely, nor my dad. At that time, they obviously didn't have a clue. So I became a liability the minute I was born, in a sense. I'm number 11 out of all those children. Things for me weren't as bad as it may seem, being that we were poor. Being poor, I was mostly happy. Some people try to say that they're sad, and it's a two-way street, so to speak. There's some good sides to being poor. It teaches you a whole lot. And at the time, I didn't really know I was poor because we were segregated mostly, and most of the people around me looked and felt and dressed and talked and acted just like I did. But by the time I realized it, I was probably in a neighborhood of 9, 10 years old. I went to school with an integrated school. I had went to a segregated school earlier, but obviously I went to one that was integrated, and I noticed a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Well, by the time you get out of elementary and you go to junior high and then high school, well, by that time I wasn't really interested in school by the time I got to high school. All I was interested in was making money. I would say to myself, school's not paying me a dime. Let me get out of here. And that's exactly what I did. By the time I was 16, I quit. From that minute on, I had been working jobs before that, but from that minute on, I found it wasn't too bad to get a job and to take care of myself. The one thing about being poor, you have to really look out for yourself. My mother taught me how to do the basics, wash your face, comb your hair, all the details. Well, I learned how to iron my clothes. I even learned how to make starch and put starch in my clothes, shirts, pants, everything. So it wasn't really that bad. You're just about on your own when you're that age. And when you're poor, everybody teaches, the older ones teach the younger ones, and it just keeps on. It's like repetitious. Mm-hmm. Well, by the time I got out of high school and got jobs and so forth, I traveled around a little bit, never really missing my dad, but I kept wanting to go see him. I knew he was up in Chicago. Went up to see my dad in Chicago. That wasn't too bad. I felt kind of sorry for him the minute I saw him because he was living pretty poorly. It was kind of sad. But he came out, talked to me for a minute, asked me, which one am I? He said, which one are you? And I said, I'm Joe. Well, from that minute on, the conversation started, and for some reason, I didn't understand a whole lot at 21, but I did feel sorry for him. I understood he was poor. Mm-hmm. Well, by the time I got done, I left Chicago. I came back here, the Quad Cities. I left the Quad Cities, and I went to Des Moines. I was still searching for something, trying to get around, trying to be a man. By the time I got back to the Quad Cities, after leaving and going to Des Moines, I finally wound up getting a job at Deere & Company. I worked there for about 3 years and 4 months. Deere & Company was industrialized. That's where a lot of people worked at that time. Mm-hmm. Basically, it wasn't a bad job, but I just couldn't see myself in that dark, dingy hole for 25, 30 years. Well, when I was coming up, we had to take a job and we had to stay with it. Mm-hmm. That means you had to do a job that you didn't even like. Well, obviously I didn't understand at the time. Usually good education can prevent a lot of that. But I didn't have any real education. I had some formal training education, but I wasn't really educated to do one thing. Well, I worked there for about 3 years, 4 months, got fired, worked many a job before mm-hmm. I actually settled in. Well, I have a brother that was a barber at the time, and he kept talking to me and telling me that he wanted me to go to barber school. I said, well, I'll try it out. I went down there and I started to go to barber school. Well, I did pretty good, but I had some difficulties while I was going to school. And those difficulties kept me out of school. I won't mention what they were, but mm-hmm. they were difficulties. They kept me out of school for a while. But by the time I got out of school and back in school, I finally finished. I would have been out of, I'd say about a year or two earlier if I hadn't got into those difficulties. But, yeah, it was pretty rough. It's kind of easy to sit here and talk about certain things now, but I think when you're young, those are the stupidest years of your life. I haven't really decided on where it starts and ends. I think right around, my opinion, is around 13 to 30. Mm-hmm. Those are your dumb years. You do some stupid things. Well, after all, if you make it through, then you can sit back and have this conversation. But I went to barber school, and once I graduated, I worked for my brother for a while, but he ran a real tough shop. It was actually tough. Mm-hmm. And I quit. I actually quit. I couldn't stay there. Well, I found another guy here in Davenport that had a barbershop before my brother, but he had closed it up because he became, we'll call it, for lack of a better word, a big shot. And by him becoming a big shot, he worked at Deere & Company. He was head of human resources.
Okay.
His name was Mr. Charles Tony. And I called him on the phone and inquired about the barbershop that was closed that he used to operate. He told me, I don't do business over the phone, come out and see him. Well, I went out to see him. I get out there, and I still remember the address, 1605 Cofelt. And I get out there, he offers me a drink and sat me down. He was real proper, a real good individual. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he told me, said, you can go open the shop up if you want to clean it up. And that's what I did. I opened it up and was doing pretty well. Well, I stayed there, I'm going to say maybe 2, maybe 3 months. My mother calls me one evening and tells me my brother was injured in Rock Island, got shot, out in the streets and so forth. Well, the brother that had the barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I rush over to the hospital, and he tells me one thing, you take over the shop, and I'll be home, and this and that. Well, obviously, he didn't make it. He died. He had been there about 3.5 years.
Wow.
Well, I took over the barbershop down there, and in those days, they were pretty tough on licensing. So I had to work under a master barber for about 1.5 years before I had to go back and take a master's test at the state of Iowa up here in Des Moines. And this is where it all begins, and this is the way it is at this point. This is my third barbershop that I have. I'm still on the same street after 52 years.
Wow.
And been very fortunate to have a great family.
Yes, you have.
Very fortunate.
Yes. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit on your story because, you know, your story is unique in its own. And the thing that I always wrap around my head as your child is the 20 other children in the family. And that's a lot for anybody to deal with. But then to have to decipher at a young age what you felt you needed to do in order to have a better life and to just decide, hey, I'm not going to do school anymore. I got to get out here and I got to make money. That's a lot on a child at 14 years old. So when you were going through all of that at 14, and at the time you were thinking about taking care of you, but then a few years later you had a family to start thinking about. So how did that all make you feel and grasp when you think about it now, the things that you had to go through? Do you believe that anybody today would be able to handle what you went through at that age?
It just depends on what you see and how you see it. When I was 14, I actually was grown. I actually felt I was kind of grown because I have to say they started you off real early at teaching you the basics. And just about everybody that was around you, you did the same thing. You had some kind of a work ethic. Well, I figured if I could, they could do it, I could do it. I mean, I worked in onion fields, potato fields. I worked at shaking cowhides, all kinds of little mealy jobs that I didn't like. That was before I even got old enough to wash dishes. Well, all the jobs kind of taught me a whole lot. Well, I've seen people doing those things before. At 14, I actually felt grown because, they give you that sense of responsibility.
Right.
And by the time I got married, I was 20 years old. Now, I was afraid when I didn't understand. I said, my mother would tell me, she says, Joe, I heard you got this young lady pregnant, which is my wife after 56 years. We're still together. But the bottom line at that time, I said, geez, I didn't know nothing about getting married. She kept telling me, you go ahead and you get married. Well, it actually worked out. I got married, and it wasn't so hard to really raise a family. Adjusting to married life was the hard part. I couldn't run with my friends. I couldn't this. You have to do a whole lot of things in between. And I was trying to do both, trying to raise a family and trying to adjust to being married. I couldn't do a whole, drink with your friends. You can do that.
Right.
But at the same time, you still have to go home. You got an obligation and responsibility. And that's how it actually turned out. So it wasn't really hard for me. And then again, I watched a lot of people as I was raising my children. I didn't want my children I wanted them to be better off. You, my daughter, and my son. I didn't want you to have to go through what I was going through. I wanted you to have nice clothes. I wanted you to go to a great environment. I remember you guys were going to public school. We didn't want you to go to public school. Me and your mom sat down and we said, we're going to stop this. I felt safer if I put you in a Catholic school, something that was private. Well, after about, I think you were in your second or third year of elementary, and we took you out, and you guys went all the way through private school all the way through high school. Well, this is something we were trying to do, and people would always ask me, Joe, why did you send your kids to Catholic school? I felt the environment was safer. We were worried about your safety. We were worried about caring about that. I never wanted to see you walk home from school. I'd be there to pick you up or get you in school. I didn't care if there was a school bus, whatever the case may be. We want to make sure you got to school. Those things came because of what I had seen earlier. Well, and here we had come up with the summertime. I didn't want you out there painting fences, detasseling corn like some of the kids. Not that you were better. I just knew we could do better. So I seen a young lady working at a bank. Well, the lady was working at the bank. I asked her, how did you get that job? She had went to school with you guys. And she told me that I went out to job service and took a typing test, and that's how I got it. She said, but you have to type 50 words or more. I said, oh, yeah, in a minute. Well, I said, I went down and bought a typewriter.
Yep, I remember those days.
Yeah, and by the time I bought the typewriter, you and Joe, that's how you did it. And, I'd come in every night, remember, and check your mom would say, well, you want to check their papers? I'd check, and that was it. There were so many things that you really learned from being, responsible. And, of course, like I said, being poor. Yeah.
Right.
So I knew I was going to do pretty good. I mean, housing and so forth. I didn't know how to buy a house. We rented properties, so forth. I mean, I actually, when I started, we lived in a sort of a pretty ragged place. It wasn't bad, but it was clean. But the neighbors were a little not too clean. So we moved from one place to another place. By the time we got done with the third place, someone I knew had made me just a little envious. And I told my wife, I says, you know what, we're going to start looking for a house. We went out here and we rented a house. We were living in Ridgeview, another house out there. And at that time, the people let us rent the house. They were only going to let us rent it for 90 days, but they wound up asking us to buy it. They were kind of cautious, a little scared that we might tear it up. Well, the property, I said, I don't know how to buy a house. One of the realtors taught me how to buy a house on contract. Well, from that minute on, we stayed there 4 years. We moved from there to a brand new house at up the street at 5506 North Cedar, brand new neighborhood and everything. And all of those things were inspiring because somebody kept motivating you. Right. You kept looking at things that you wanted, and I always really said I wanted to live in a brick home, but I kept thinking, geez, I'm going to get me one. Well, naturally, I didn't get the brick home, but I got a thing that, some bricks out front. It looks like it's a brick home, But I settled for this one.
Exactly.
This was the last move,
Right.
But
right,
for me, a lot of people want you to tell a story that it was not hard for me. So help me. I don't know. It takes a lot. You say to yourself, you do believe in the Creator. Well, obviously, the Creator was helping me along with my ambition. And, of course, I had a young lady, my wife was with me. She's been so ambitious. I mean, she's worked just about every day since we've been married. It's kind of hard to get that sometimes. I've seen a lot of guys that really can't work in tandem sometimes. But during the time that me and her were married, it was my responsibility for everything. Oh, if it wasn't done, the male was responsible. Women's liberation hadn't really started by then. It was on its way, though.
Right.
Well, hey, I mean, I had to step up to the plate, and it was pretty easy. It wasn't too hard for me. Well, it really wasn't.
The thing that it stands out to me the most is that you've said a few times is that being poor made you truly appreciate and bring that ambition. Where today, when you look at that word or you hear people say and use the excuse of I'm poor and I don't have anything and I can't do anything, you don't use it as an excuse. And that's the one thing that I've hear you say over and over and over in our conversation so far is that, that being poor really made you the man you are today. And part of it is because as well that you wanted to have that ambition, but most people would turn that around and say, oh, well, poor me, I can't do this and I can't do that. It's somebody else's fault. I was poor. And you get it to a certain degree, but when you become an adult, you still have options, and you made the decision to be that adult man. And like you said, to raise your family, take care of your wife and your kids. And you've done things for us that most kids, even if they had all parents and they had a great life, they still don't have the experiences that we have had as a family, I could say personally. But when you continue to move forward the way you have, like I said, we've lived in some really great homes. We've been in the home that you have now, with mom and dad, you guys been there 40 years, just about. Yeah. That's saying something, and that says a lot. And even in this day and age, being married for 56 years, that's almost unheard of anymore, that you can even have somebody that you can love and support you in everything that you do. And you two are very well known for that support system, and that support system is poured out on us as children, and then of course into your grandkids, because that's your love of your lives as well. But I want to talk a little bit more about the business side, because you're not just that barber. You're not just the barber that cuts hair. You have a place where people can come in. They're motivated. You can learn something. You're activist to some degree. You have health awareness programs. You've done a lot in the community for 52 years. So let's talk a little bit about those things that you have provided in the community and what the barbershop really is all about. It's not just about getting that haircut.
Well, when I was a kid, somebody was always coming to me for help. I had a friend of mine, his name was Donald Bell, and Donald was, he wound up in a sanitarium the rest of his life, even when we were kids. I would always help him. Well, I didn't know. I think sometimes you have to have something inside of you. Well, I just didn't know that I had certain things that people would get along and ask me this, ask me that. I went to a camp when I was a little kid. I was about 15, 16, 17. At this camp I went to, within 1 week I was a barrack leader. Within, before the whole 10 days were up, I was actually a supervisor. Well, out of all the boys, there were 178 boys at this camp. I used to have one little guy, we called him Strawberry. He used to follow me around all the time. We called him Strawberry because his lips were pink like strawberries. Anyway, and I didn't know, he always wanted me to help him, and I would help him. Well, when I was always, that year, when we got ready to come out of that camp that summer, I was voted the best supervisor out there. And I mean, it was always easy for me to, how do I say it, kind of lead people, or they would listen to me. It never was hard. Well, once I got into the barber business, all these things just came about. Mm-hmm. I'd be in there having a conversation with some of the customers, and every now and then somebody would come in and say, Joe, they really listen to you. I did not know they were listening to me. Mm-hmm. I just was having a conversation. Well, by the time I realized that I got about 25 years or so in the business, well, they started asking me to do certain things. Well, I didn't mind. Well, as far as me being an activist, they gave me that title simply because I did a forum a couple times. But the forum was something that I knew inside of me that wouldn't really work, but I did it to please people. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to understand that you can do this and you can do that. All the things that I'm naturally positive because it makes me mad to hear somebody say they can't do something. I said, you haven't even tried. I'm thinking, that, at least try. This has been my attitude all my life. Now, there were certain things I didn't try, but I knew I could do it if I tried. Right. And I try to present myself in that same manner, especially if I'm talking to a young person. And that was it. And all my life, things just seem to kind of work in there. People come and ask you questions. They want you to be on this board. They want you to do this or do that. I think my common sense factor has a lot to do with it, too. Formal education is really good to have. But I think I have great common sense. I think most people have common sense, but for some reason, most of them, it's not always too common. They don't use it,
Right.
But that's what I basically live with, is just common sense. There's a lot of stupid things, and you did it. There's no sense in making a case out of something that is wrong, if you do it. I've done that before, but I do know that my common sense has gotten me mostly to where I'm at. Right. And people seem to just listen to you. It's always like I got a story to tell. I'll say something, and it just winds up a story. And they'll say, well, Joe, you so-and-so. Well, I say, well, I didn't mean for it to be a story. I just, I'm just telling you about an event or whatever may happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest thing to do is to convince people I'm not a glory seeker. I don't seek glory. I don't need that sort of thing. In fact, I'm kind of shy when it comes to that because I put my pants on one leg at a time. I'm nothing special. I'm just another human being. Mm-hmm. I get kind of tired sometimes of people trying to worship other people. I don't want that. I don't want people to, well, that's Joe Son. I don't need that. I think what bugs me the most is they try to do that to you. I don't need it. I don't want it. I would rather just say, well, man, you can do anything that you want to do, son. Just come over here and talk to me about it. I'll help you if I possibly can. Right. And I got somebody here at home that will really help you. Help me and Shirley have helped so many people. We've tried. All I got to do is get on the phone, call Shirley. If I don't know what to do, Shirley does, Hell, she was taking kids downstairs, putting them on the computer, all kinds of things. It just seems like it falls right in. I got somebody willing to help. Not selfish, talking about, well, why did you do this? Why did you do that? She ain't like that. She would be right here. I'd say, Shirley, you know what? I got some kids that need some coats. Mm-hmm. She'd take them out to the mall.
Yep.
Then she'd buy some coats for them. This is the type of life I've had, just an extremely good life, and it's still going. It's just the way it mixes in there,
Right.
Kind of hard to explain when you really get down to it,
Well,
and people want you.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick that the reason why it seems hard is because you're so humble. And that's the key to everything in your success in life is the humbleness. Like you said, you don't need to be glorified in order to say, this is what I'm doing. You don't need to have somebody's permission or feel like you have to hear somebody pat you on the back 24/7. The end of the day is you are who you are, and you've been blessed, and you continue to bless people in so many different ways that it is hard to kind of think about what is it you do, because you just get up and you just do it. You and like you and said that you and Mom, you guys are a team. There's never been one or the other. It's always been a team attitude, and the partnership that you have built in 56 years is incredible. And as a child, seeing that's the one thing that as a child that we always hope that when you grow up that you get that same thing. But I honestly believe in this day and age that people don't raise their children the way we were raised. And they don't see the things that we have seen coming up because there's so much of that. Well, we want you to be best friends. No, it's not about friendship. It's about truly being a parent and truly having a true partnership. And I think that's lacking today because everybody wants to raise their kids as, giving them choices. And we didn't have a whole lot of choice. It was, you're going to either do it this way, it's going to be my way, or it's going to be no way. So,
and that's right.
Right.
That's why the structured system is broken down. Mm-hmm. The structure is gone. The old structure that used to be here, they said it was bad. Well, they've changed the structure. I'd have to say you have two captains of a ship. Things have changed. When I was coming up as a man, I wanted to be one because they told me this is what you do to be a man. Mm-hmm. I like when you and Joe both told me this is what got me the most. You never know it, but you had went into the Navy. Mm-hmm. And when you went into the Navy, you said your company commander asked you if your dad was in the military. Mm-hmm. Because you and Joe were so structured. I like that. See, that's the kind of stuff I kind of like. But I don't like to flaunt it. I just was so glad. I was thinking, geez, because you guys fell right in there. Well, when it came to structure, I remember as a young man, maybe it just came natural, and then again, I might have learned it because I did go to a lot of Christian camps and mm-hmm. certain things. Well, when you guys were living at home, both you and Joe, there was times I always knew that Joe was just a little different, and right. I had to structure him every day. If there was water spots on that mirror, I know Joe did it. Just little things that I would be mad about. I would go in his room and pull that cover back, mm-hmm. and Joe, yeah, I know you didn't make that bed up. Get up here and make it, Well, maybe that type of structure helped both of you. I didn't have to do that with you now. I ain't going to say that. But Joe, I had to do that quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But it might have helped some of it, that tough structure. Right. Do you remember when I had Joe getting up in the morning running?
Yep. Never forget it in my life.
And he was going to play football. And I said, Kim, you're going to get up and run.
You make me get up and run, too. I was like, why am I running?
That's right. But it came in handy, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, when you went in the military.
Yep.
So I just say that we do things accordingly. And when my raising, or my time coming up, a man really ran his household. Mm-hmm. And he did have a partner, somebody that helped him. Well, I still have some of that in me, but I just say, I let Shirley go ahead. Whatever she wants to do, she can do. I try to be as fruitful as possible. If she's not at work, I'll wash dishes. Mm-hmm. I babysat. I don't call it babysat. I've just done things with my family when she wasn't here.
Right.
And that's about all, you have to do these sort of things. But a lot of guys today, I don't think they've had the training. They don't, most of them just don't know how sometimes. Mm-hmm. It takes a while. You got to keep watching other people sometimes, depending on where you come from. Because believe me, I didn't know anything about this. Because I don't remember Dad being around there doing too much of anything. I can remember watching my mom do a lot of things. So maybe that helped me too quite a bit, because she used to say words like, well, boy, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of nobody. Well, I remembered that. Well, how am I going to take care of my family if I can't take care of me? See? So little things like that would rub off,
Right.
And boy, hey, it just happens, and then the next thing you know, you're being rewarded for something that you supposed to have done.
Well, exactly, and that's funny how you say that, because I think with the world we live in today, it was ironic. I was just watching a news clip yesterday where they were talking about, or over the weekend, how everybody is getting awards as a child, even when you lose. So how does that help you? How does that make individuals not understand that you have to work a certain extent in order to become number one? But instead they're telling everybody today, well, you're worthy, so we're going to give you an award even when you've lost. But how does that teach anybody anything? And
it really doesn't.
And it doesn't, right? And so
No.
And that's like you're talking, that structure and everything has gone away because everybody's trying to conform these kids and individuals into doing things that they know that are inaccurate, and then they wonder why, when they become adults, why they can't handle life as an adult, because you've told me all your life, that you've been told all their life that they're number one, they're good at this and they're good at that, and reality is you weren't, because you didn't work hard enough in order to be number one. And so when you see society the way it is today, and you being in the barbershop, being in the barbershop is like a black man's cornerstone, and being able to have these conversations and have those arguments and discussions about life and raising kids and everything that goes on in the community. You have been that staple for 52 years and you're still going strong. And I know you get this question all the time, when are you going to stop being in the barbershop? So what are your answers to that?
Well, a lot of times I say to myself, I'd like to stop, because some of the things I see, they say once you start to dislike some of the things about your job, it's time to quit. But believe it or not, every day that something reassures me that I should stay. So what I'm going to say is I think the Almighty will give me the time, which I don't know when that shall be.
Right.
Because these kids today and the people today, they're not structured like I was, and I'm getting used to some of it. But the majority of the time, the reason that our society is the way it is, where they try to please children all the time, you said it earlier, they want to be their friend. They don't know how to actually raise a child, and when these children come up today, they don't know the difference between right or wrong. They don't know how to respect people. Most of the time it's because their parents didn't ask for respect. The parents are first, they're adults. So if they don't respect their parents, they're not going to respect me or you.
Right.
So I see a lot of that I don't like coming in the barbershop. So I'm getting a little better at it. I got a couple of young guys, one of them at least working for me, and I'm getting better with it, because I talked to some of them, and in fact, last week I had a conversation with some boys about having sex. Well, it's a funny thing, when you get older, you learn so much. I said to this kid, I says, when you're having sex, and we'll just use the verb raw sex. I said, listen here. I said, did you know that you're messing with somebody's life? And he looked at me, and his buddy kind of shoved up on the chair. And I said, listen, think about it. Every time you do this, I says, two things. You're messing with someone's life, or you can get disease. I said, you got a young man or a young woman that's going to be born. Here, you're messing with somebody's life if you're not structured yet. You don't have a job. You're in high school. They were actually listening. And it just came out like I had planned it or something. Well, this is what you got to do with some of them, because this is supposed to be so important because of the society that we live in today, and they kind of understand when I'm telling them you're messing with someone's life. Well, nobody told me that. I didn't know none of that sort of thing. Well, all I'm saying, the information they have today is just that it's got to be more publicized.
Right.
Make them think about what can really happen. And, of course, that disease that's out here, can take your life today. But a lot of young people want somebody to talk to, but don't talk to them like they're little children,
Right.
Most of them are willing to listen. I think I read something one time where it said the man called Jesus, he wanted to talk to a bunch of people. He would send the elders out of the room, and he would talk to the seeds. Well, I can understand. Young people would understand you more if you just tell the truth and talk to them. That's all. And I think I captivated about 3 or 4 of them. And they were sitting on the edge of their seat listening to me. And I enjoyed that part, If there's one thing you want to do, you get happy when you see people doing well.
Right.
You know, I get a little hassle. Geez, I know that guy. I mean, it makes it all the worthwhile, you know, when you can say something just to make people happy, and especially if they come back and tell you. You know, so I don't want to be one of those guys. I want them, if they come back and tell me, I'll be looking, oh, Lord, don't, you know, you don't want to break down, but it's a good feeling, you know.
Right.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, you get, you know, the good feeling because you know you did something that's worthwhile, you know. Make them see something that you already see, you know. And, well, we didn't get that kind of a briefing, you know, or raising when I was coming up because, you know, the difficulties, parents, my mother started off in poverty and ended up in poverty. You know? So I don't blame her for anything. It's just a certain time period.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But as you said, your whole goal was to ensure that your family had better and had more. And you and Mom have consistently, to this day, are constantly doing that, ensuring that, you know, and then of course now you got your two big grandbabies, as I always call them, you know,
that's right.
That you guys are, you know, are honed into and, you know, a part of their lives consistently. And, you know, and it's amazing how each generation continues to grow. And of course, we hope that our kids, you know, are that next generation that continue to make their family, you know, the McLemores continue to move forward in the right direction. But I also want to dive a little bit more into being the community advocate. You know, the barbershop is a community, and you've provided so many different things beyond just being the activist. You've also done health awareness type programs within your community. And part of it was because you had some of your own personal things that you've gone through, but you also have a voice and people listen to that voice. Do you want to talk a little bit about how being the barbershop is utilized as a part of health awareness as well?
Well, you know, the part that you really utilize is that you know the hood where you're at. Most of the people, you know, they come in. It's kind of hard to say you know what you're actually doing. Usually, like I said, if you're running a barbershop, you run into a conversation. Conversations, there might be 20 conversations within one day, then you might have 20 a week. Well, a lot of times if you're kind of worldly and know about these conversations, people start to give you credit for something. In fact, a guy had me on this board where I went over to a school and I did a program called Read Aloud. Well, I went over to the school. I read 41 pages to a bunch of 4th and 5th graders. And I told them after I get through reading these 41 pages, there'll be questions and answers. Well, one I didn't tell them I had $51 bills I was going to give for every correct answer. Well, some young lady with glasses on, young girl, I think she got about 11, 12, 13 bucks. At the end of, and at the end of the conversation and what I was teaching them is, this is what education is, you know. I was trying to, I had stole that from a movie I'd seen on TV. I wanted them to understand that the more you learn, the more money you'll make.
Right.
You see what I mean? And I put her up there and I said, you know, I was showing them that she had won more than any of them. They even had a kid with his head down on a table in timeout. He started answering when he knew there was $1. See what I mean? And I said, oh, so you're in timeout, huh? But the bottom line is, most of the time, you know, it was a lot of fun, you know, because, oh, man, they didn't know that money was coming. See?
Right.
I wanted to make sure you were listening. Well, she was sure listening. And she went and got my coat. Made me feel so good, you know, because you felt you had done something right, you know.
Right.
And that's how they come up with a lot of that stuff. So they'll ask me sometimes, Joe, would you like to go over here and do this? I said, oh, man, but I'll go over and do it. And it's pretty easy for me once I get on a roll, you know. I mean, because sometimes you're just actually mad. And then sometimes you're happy, you know.
Right.
I think I'm at my best when I'm mad.
Yeah.
I can really, I can have I could say a whole lot of things that I have to say or want to say, you know. And these kids today, they just don't understand that they haven't made. They've come up under civil rights legislation. They've come up under integration. They just don't understand the past because no one's explained it to them. They've come up under these things, you know what I mean? Right. I can't blame them for not knowing. All I can say is the generation ahead of me should have informed them more about this is their time. You can make it today. You can do this and you can do that. See, structure is really so important. My 2 grandsons, they got structured parents to begin with. Right. Well, here you got 2 structured grandparents. I'm not trying to brag, but I think we as grandparents are pretty well on top of the game today because we both still are influenced by working and staying out here amongst the people. You know, we're not really left in the fog. So it's a little easier. I like talking to the young people. I give you this is what I was going to do. My birthday was coming up. Well, my grandson, your son, said to me, he said, Grandpa, what do you want for your birthday? I said, there's nothing you can get me for my birthday. He said, well, I'll get you some clippers. I said, no, that's okay. You don't have to do that. I said, but I'll tell you what you can do. And that's where it led to where some more. I said, what I want you to do is to work on your doctor's degree for me. That would be the happiest moment of my life. Well, all of a sudden he gets on the phone. He tells me he's getting ready to go to school with the business that he's at. You see, right now, well, it just came in just right. Well, I asked him again this past Sunday, and he said they start the school online, and he'll be going to Ivy League school. He'll start on the 5th, October 5th.
Yep, that's correct.
I thought that was great. Well, I was saying to myself, that's what I wanted to ask both of them so they could. So I said, well, I'll catch C and do the same thing. I got on the phone and I said, see, all you could do for me is I want you to, you know what he said? I've been going to school already for about a year, and it was almost like God heard the plan. Yeah, that's all I asked for.
Right.
That's all I want. Because that's what makes me happy. I mean, I appreciate him really wanting to get me anything, but if I had $10 billion, what would I do with it at this point in my life? You know, I mean, if anything, I try to help somebody get to that point on this earth, be happy.
Right.
That's about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you do that every day, though. You're always helping somebody. Even when they have their hand out, you even if you fuss about it, you're there. You're always making sure that somebody's life is easier, no matter what their circumstances are. And even though you don't like to be honored, I am going to mention the fact that my father was honored at the Figge Museum, which is right in Davenport, Iowa, and it was a huge honor for his 50 years as an African American barber in Quad Cities. The Figge Museum, the guest artist was Jefferson Pender, who is from Chicago, Illinois, and he presented this scenario called Ghost Light, and it was in recognition of my dad being in business for 50 years, and it was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. Most people don't get recognized about what they've accomplished until after they have left this earth, and my father had the opportunity to have an exhibit that's still there at the Figge Museum in Davenport, where it talks about his life and how he became this barber. And I was very fortunate enough to be able to go home and be there during the opening night. And so it just, you know, like I said, I know you're an introvert and you don't like to be honored, but those are certain things that, you know, I like sharing because you have definitely given your life to everybody and to make sure that, you know, we all have the best of everything. You definitely deserve those honors and those rewards, and being honored in a museum that will be there for the rest of your life. That's, to me, is above and beyond what anybody could possibly imagine to have. And I'm sure even though you fussed the whole time having to get prepared for it, you really did an amazing job that night to be able to stand up there and talk to a room full of people about your life and how you came from where you are and where you are today, and how you continue to soar forward, and sowing those seeds into the community, into these children, and then continued with your family as well. That is something that, you know, like I said, you don't have to be patted on the back for, but your daughter, I love you to death and want you to know how proud I am to be able to carry that McLemore name and that legacy continually every single day in our lives, because it is definitely important, and that I'm so looking forward to see your grandkids do the same thing, because this is what family is all about. This is truly what family is about.
Yes, and that is so true. That is so true. That's the thing that gets you, it haunts me, you know. Oh, my God, I'm so glad they got me. You know, your mom always says, you say, well, I always say, as long as I'm here, they got me. I'm not going to let nothing happen.
Right,
I'm thanking God every day. I said, oh, Lord, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's about all I can say. It's a wonderful trip. I just say when I first started off, I just wanted to be a barber and take care of my family. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I found something I liked. You know, I said, well, and here it is. You know, you're winding down, and it's all fun because it all turns out nice, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Got a proud family. In fact, I forget sometimes. I said, geez, I wonder what Kim... Anyway, Joe said, no, she's a project man. I didn't know, you know. I'm just happy to see you doing well. That's all.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We're definitely
really
doing
am.
well. This is definitely no worries over here, But like I said, I'm always so proud to be able to carry that name and that legacy, and and keep the family moving forward. And like I said, we're all the grandkids are next in line to do the same thing. But I do have a few more questions before we end the show.
Okay.
I want you to give some advice. If somebody was to walk in front of you today, and I'm sure you've gotten this question before about what does it mean to be in business, and what advice would you give that person if they decide they want to open a business today?
The first thing I would tell them is make sure you find something you like. If you find something that you like to do, go right ahead at it. Get all the first thing you're going to need is information. Information leads you to everything. And that's about all I would tell them. Make sure you know what you're doing. Get all the information on what you want to do and go at it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And Mom, I know you're listening, so we gave you a whole bunch of kudos back there, so I'm sure I'm gonna hear about this tomorrow. So we want to say thank you to you too, and we love you, and definitely have been the staple of our family as well. 56 years is a long time, and as Mom always says, it's something to be a McLemore, okay? Once you are a McLemore, you're a kid.
Sometimes she thinks I don't have. She's got my back, and I know that. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I always feel that, the Almighty wants me to do this. I don't want people worrying about me. I like to think about them. Mm-hmm. I don't, because believe me, I've been through quite a bit, and I've already found out that when my time comes, it just comes. I do know that I was put here for this purpose, and that's why it works so easy for me. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time to understand, just to talk to people, just to be a guide, sort of help another person. I hate to sound so selfish when I talk about my family because we're doing so well, the family structure. But I do say that I wish I could help everybody, especially those that are lost. Every day I get up and I have to see people walking down the street talking to themselves. Mm-hmm. I go, they got these rescue missions and so forth. I mean, you can't help all these people, but you sure wish you could.
Right.
It can make my day bad sometimes when I see it all,
Right. Well,
but I have to live with it.
Yeah. And one thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I always tell my wife, I said, Shirley, hey, we got it made. I said, sometimes you get a little afraid, too, because you see so much happening, Mm-hmm. And you say, good Lord, I'm so thankful. I just so glad it's not happening to me. Not to say that I'm glad it's happening to someone else, but,
right.
You're just glad. You say, oh, my God, this is something. And, I could give you 90 stories, but I'm not getting into all that. But it's just, hey, it's good. It's great. But like I said, if a person finds something they want to do, get all the information, and more than likely they won't fail. Yeah. See, I didn't have all the information when I started, mm-hmm. but as time went on, I gathered more and more and more, And most of what I've learned in the last, we'll say, 20 years. It takes a long time to really, how do I say it? They say older people should have wisdom. Well, I think wisdom is just one word, and it takes a long time. In my opinion, I tell Shirley, I think wisdom is understanding. Mm-hmm. If you can understand, there's nothing you can't accomplish. I understand quite a bit, and I try to tell people, no matter what it is, I said, if you just got understanding. They said, well, all that wisdom you got, well, wisdom comes with just understanding. Heck, I hear stories every day, and I want to try to understand your story. And usually I tell them, just look in the mirror,
Right.
You're the one that can solve that problem,
Mm-hmm.
That's about it, And that's the way I did myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some problems. I said, Joe, you can do better than that. You start talking to yourself,
Right.
And, hey, it works. Yeah.
It absolutely does. Absolutely does. Well, I will tell you again, I am definitely have enjoyed this evening and so proud to have the opportunity to have you on my show and being able to, you have an opportunity to share all these great, as we call them, golden nuggets so that people can really understand. Like I tell people that, as business owners, they see us as shells. They think that everything in our life has been perfect and they only see the good side. But I always loved the way that I do the show because it's about truly understanding who we are as human beings, and that, everything that we've earned and where we're at today, we've worked for it. Was nothing handed out. Everything has been an earning opportunity for us to be who we are today. And then we're sharing those same resources and understanding on to the next group of people, so that they realize that you can do whatever you want to do in life. It is truly up to you. And as you always say, like you said earlier, that, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of nobody else. But you have the responsibility to get up every day and do better for yourself. So for those who are listening, I hope that you have learned something this evening, that yes, I'm very proud that he's my father, but I'm most proud that everything that him and my mother have done has definitely been sown into me, because mom always says you are just like your daddy, and I am absolutely 100% like my daddy. Okay. So, and now where all this craziness comes from, and all the business side of it comes from this man right here, because, this is where I've gotten my, ideas of entrepreneurship and understanding. And as a family, my parents have definitely supported me in everything that I've done, and I continue to work hard at it and try to accomplish, so that, of course, my son can continue to grow into the man that he is becoming and has become. I'm just completely proud of. I can't say enough about him. And then, of course, my brother and my sister-in-law, and then my nephew. So, we have a small, intimate family, but we are very proud. And, like I said, again, I thank you. But Dad, before you go, please let the listeners know how, where they can come to get their haircut there in the Quad Cities. And if there's a number you want to provide, you can also share that as well.
Well, if you're ever in Davenport, Iowa, I want you to come to Joe's Barbershop, located at 1505 Harrison, Davenport, Iowa. Now, the phone number in order to get in touch with yours truly, Mr. Joe McLemore, is 563-322-9111. Once again, 322-9111. Thank you.
All right. Well, you guys heard him live again. I had my very special guest here, Mr. Joseph McLemore Sr., who is the owner and operator of Joe's Barbershop in the Quad Cities. Dad, it has been a joy. I love you, and I thank you for being on the show with me this evening.
Well, thank you, dear.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And for everyone else, we are here every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But before we go, if you haven't been paying attention to the social media this week, we have an amazing event coming up called the Purple and Pink, which I am a part of, collaborated with Move with T. We have an amazing dance fitness throwback fundraiser for breast cancer awareness and domestic violence awareness, which, as most people know, is a very closeness and to my heart on the domestic violence side, because I am a survivor of domestic violence. So we are raising funds to give to two separate entities for our event on Saturday, which is going to be Saturday, September the 26th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. It is a virtual Zoom event, so we want to make sure that everybody stays safe and don't have to worry about, getting sick or anything because of the COVID and so forth and the pandemic. So we want to make sure you all stay at home, enjoy this event, but you need to purchase your tickets. And if you can't dance or don't want to dance, just donate. All this money is going to two amazing entities. One is National Breast Cancer Coalition, NBCC, right here in the local area. And the other one is Pain to Purpose, Inc., which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization who deals with domestic violence. And that's the other, as we know, deals with breast cancer awareness. Please help us with this event. Please support us by donating your dollars. You can be as small as $5 all the way up. So you can put in as much as you want, but we love helping out people here in our community, and they're excited about this opportunity. If you want to learn more about who we are and what we're doing with this event, please go to my business page at Facebook at WSBI LLC, or you can also go to the website at www.sbillc.com and learn about the event, as well as you can find the link there in order to support this event. And if you also want to learn more about what I do and what WSBI is about, you can also find that information on the website. But until next time, please, we'll see you next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.